So I just got done watching the press conference, Anthony Joshua versus Daniel Dubois. Now I was not gonna be expecting, anything major. I wasn't expecting this to be like a Fury Usyk press conference or something like that, where you're locked in, you're wanting to see what this guy's saying, this response, this, that, and the other. I knew it wasn't gonna be the most lively press conference, but it was still an interesting watch. Now, the first question that was asked, and obviously they asked both fighters before they spoke with the promoters. The first question they asked to Daniel Dubois was with regards to Don Charles, and you know, Dubois basically Ade asked him, the rumors, and they are just that rumors, that Don Charles is no longer part of Team Dubois. Can you confirm or deny? And he just said, as long as he's there on Saturday, it doesn't matter. Yeah, okay, fair enough. And that was the end of that, obviously. Um, it got to Ade just kind of basically asked both guys questions. Daniel Dubois he is not someone who he's a man of a few words. I think that's the best way to accurately describe him. Man of a few words. Anthony Joshua was very methodical in his answers and the way he was there at the press conference. It just looked as business as usual with him. And I know some people speculate with Anthony Joshua, they'll say like, oh, he looks like, it's getting to him the occasion. Honestly, the way I seen Anthony Joshua there at that press conference, that looked like a guy who was just like, been there, seen it, done it, let's do it again. That to me, that's how I interpret it. He looked like a guy who was just going through the motions. He's there, he's been there, seen it and done it. Eddie Hearn brought up the previous experience he's had at Wembley Stadium, going back to the Matt Legg fight in 2014 at the undercard of Frostgroves 2. And Joshua just explained that, it's a privilege to be out there. The other fighters in the undercard will experience that, but at the end of the day, what matters is on fight night. And I think Ade said to him, what will happen on fight night. And I think Joshua got a little bit sidetracked, and he goes, we're only a few hours away, mate. We're 2 days away. What? Only a few hours. We're roughly 48 hours away. We're still 2 days away, mate. So few hours. No, we're a little bit more than that. But the question then was asked of the sparring session, and obviously the whole sparring thing is, we've heard about Joshua Dubois and sparring for years. That was a rumor. That was something that was going around many years ago. That Dubois handled himself very well in sparring. Some said he dropped Joshua, some said he hurt him, and Joshua basically admitted it. He said, it was a good shot, but what about all the other rounds we sparred? And Daniel Dubois didn't answer, and that's not an indication that, because Joshua said it very confidently, that was one shot, but what about all the other rounds we sparred? As if, they were very competitive and maybe Joshua was getting the better of it. Dubois didn't necessarily respond, but when he was pushed for it, it was just like, well, it's just sparring. And to be fair, it is just sparring. Like, it is. If sparring made a big difference, if a guy getting rocked or getting hurt and sparring made a big difference, then Dubois would have lost to Filip Hrgovic. If it made such a big difference what happened in the gym, then Joshua would have lost many more times by now. Because if he'd had a couple of bad spars in preparation for a fight and he took that into the fight with him, he would have lost many more times. So I don't necessarily look at the spar. They can bring the sparring story up, but it's a nice little thing to add, to the whole story of Joshua versus Dubois. But at the end of the day, it is just a spar that happened 8 years ago, 7-8 years ago. So does it have much relevancy now? No. If sparring 7-8 years ago, as much as that had relevance, as I said, Dubois would have lost to Filip Hrgovic, because Hrgovic handled him soundly, and Dubois acknowledged that, but it made no difference come fight night. Joshua also, it was weird because Joshua was talking about, they were talking about the face-off, and it was mentioning the fact that, we're seeing a lot of respect between both guys, whereas at the face-off, come the end, there was that big standoff. Dubois, Joshua, they were proper in each other's faces and stuff like that. There was none of that in this one. And, Dubois was just, again, I was looking more so for what Anthony Joshua was saying. And Joshua was saying, we're here, we're keeping it respectful. You give someone an inch, you take a mile. And elaborating on that, he was saying, that was why he was saying, disrespect. You give someone an inch, you take a mile. And I remember Joshua was talking about something, and Dubois just cuts in and goes, yeah, well, blah, 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 blah. And Joshua just goes, yeah, and then proceeds to carry on. That was just that was good. I liked that. I thought that was funny. I did. I giggled a bit at that one. And we said, you give someone an inch and they'll take a mile. And Ade went and said, Daniel, do you have anything to say? I think he goes to Frank. What did he say? And you just hear Frank saying, "Well, if you give you an inch, you take a mile." And still, dead silence, radio silence. It was, yeah, it had those little moments, the press conference. Above all, when I look at both fighters, Daniel Dubois looks like someone who's just going through the motions. I always say about Daniel Dubois, he looks like a fighter who's just happy to be there. And I don't mean that in a way that, like, I'm happy to be here, I'm only turning up for a payday. It's almost like he's happy with the occasion. Look at the occasion I'm at. Look what I'm getting a chance to do. All this stuff, and the fact that I get to go in on fight night and fight is just a caveat. And apologies if you can hear tractors running up the road there. It's what happens when you live in the country. But that's kind of how the impression I got with Dubois. With Joshua, as I said, a lot more methodical in his approach in there. He just spoke about, look, it's all nice. We're at this conference. We're doing what we got to do. We get in the ring on fight night, and that's that. And it was interesting that Eddie Hearn made a big thing of the fact that if Joshua wins, he will join an exclusive list: Muhammad Ali, Evander Holyfield, Lennox Lewis, as 3-time heavyweight champions of the world. And Ade mentioned to Joshua, does that legacy mean something to you? And Joshua was talked about it in before, but we talked about it before post Jermaine Franklin, saying that, look, he's in it for money. Money is what he's chasing. And he said, at the end of the day, you go in there on Saturday night, you have a fight, you become champion. Again, you still wake up on Sunday morning, eat your breakfast and go for a run, go to the gym. It's only really after his career. And that's true in a way. I was thinking of doing a video about Anthony Joshua, whether he wins or loses, his legacy is sealed. But people make it out, oh, you be this, you be that. And Joshua, again, takes it in his stride and is just like, well, I'll be a guy waking up on Sunday morning, eating breakfast. That won't make a blind bit of difference. So it was telling from Joshua. To me, he seems in a good place. This is a far cry from the Joshua I seen 12 months ago, who was in there against Robert Helenius. Even in the post-fight interview, just didn't seem to know where he was going or what he was doing. This is a much better Anthony Joshua in terms of mentally, physically. And when they asked him about how is he going to win on Saturday night, he just said, look, it's not just power. It's not just brute force. I've other elements to my game. That to me makes me think, is Joshua just going to look to box? Is he going to look to counter Daniel Dubois? And listen, if it goes long, it goes long. Because I think for me and other people looking on, the outside looking in, we look at this and we think, it's going to be Joshua, just the power is going to be too much, big puncher. But could Joshua look to go on the back foot and just maybe stick a jab on Dubois himself and just try and outbox him? I like the way he spoke about being like, look, don't just associate me with big power, with lots of power. It's not just that. Look at what else I can do. So Joshua was predominantly the main voice amongst the two fighters. I mean, I've seen Mute be the main voice with Daniel Dubois, so that's really no real achievement there. But Joshua was the main kind of guy in this one, and I liked what I seen from Anthony Joshua. I think this is going to be a great fight on Saturday night. I really, truly do. I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to do a live watch along for it. What do you guys make of this press conference, the face-to-face, everything? What do you think of both guys' demeanors? Do you think that I'm actually looking at Joshua and thinking, well, gee, you say he looks confident, I don't? Let me know in the comment section below all of your thoughts. I'd be interested to hear them. And yeah, tomorrow is the weigh-in. That's going to be an interesting one as well. I'll leave it there. Peace.